Hey YouTube, this is David. Going to be doing some more rambling thoughts videos tonight. This time I think I'll be talking about X-Men and Wolverine at the same time. At least the movies. I'll try and get into really all of my thoughts as I tell about how I got into X-Men at a kind of an early age and then back out of it, then in again. How it was basically at first. Well, I'll get to it, but just wanted to say, almost treating this like a little auto, not auto, a diary, an audio journal, if you would, just to give some idea, if only to myself, about when I'm recording this. It's May 4th, 5th, 6th, something or other. I've lost track. It's a Tuesday evening. I'm out here with the recorder again under the stars, and that's just to give some orientation to myself about when I upload these videos, since I'm trying to put together a small series of not just reviews, but just my thoughts on several different franchises that I really like, X-Men being one of them, and I'm trying to get the Aliens franchise and Prometheus video. And again, this will just be auto. Why do I keep saying auto? Audio recording stuff, as I just have the old Sony out here with me. Thinking about doing Jurassic Park, but definitely Indiana Jones, Star Wars, and I guess maybe the Batman movies. Just maybe half a dozen or so video series where I just actually end up talking about several different movies in one recording, but just to give my take on things. Hopefully somebody, if you agree, disagree, if you feel the same way about this or that, put it in the comments. I like comments. But yeah, tonight I want to talk about X-Men. Try and keep this to no longer than an hour, if that. I got into X-Men as a kid mainly because of some friends that I had. They were actually the teenage sons, 2, 3, 4 years at most older than me, sons of a friend of my family, and they had a much younger brother who was much younger than me. That's how different the ages were. But they were the ones who turned me on to X-Men comics. They were big collectors, and wouldn't you know that it was shortly after I kind of got into it, in the 90s is when this was happening. I'll be 30 in June of this year, to give some more orientation to how long it's been. Wouldn't you know that shortly after I got into it, that the animated series, the 90s cartoons, X-Men, started coming on TV, and I was watching this stuff every Saturday morning cartoons. And so, yeah, I'll go ahead and I won't give the last name, but my friends were named Benji and Nathan. They were brothers. They had, they were big collectors with collectors' cards and stuff, a whole paper grocery bag, back when more grocery stores had them, filled to overflowing their collections of X-Men comics, mainly X-Men. I think they were into other things too, but it was mainly X-Men. They were big on the X-Men, I remember. And they were the ones who kind of got me into that. But really, it's something that kind of faded, and especially when they moved away and I lost track of them. But yeah, it was basically some friends who got me into it, and I guess, at least as far as why I kept up with it and actually talked with other people about it, it kind of ended when I lost my friend. Well, I didn't lose my friends, but when they moved away, and kind of lost communication at some point. But yeah, it was mainly the few comics that I read and collected and talked with them about, but then mainly the 90s cartoon that really put X-Men lore, X-Men mythology into my head, as far as who's who, what's what, what's the overall story, what is that universe like, as far as these made-up characters, what are the X-Men supposed to teach us, or whatever, that kind of stuff. And obviously there are some really good lessons about prejudice and society and things that people definitely look into and dealing with the X-Men. But yeah, that's how it began for me. And I loved the 90s cartoon. Really, I'd have to say, as far as things that I could read or watch, I probably enjoy the 90s cartoon even more than a lot of the comics that I had, because again, I wasn't a huge collector. I collected several different comics as a kid, dozens and dozens that I had at some point, but then now all I have is maybe one little box full at most. But still, it was just a hobby and something that I enjoyed doing as a kid. I actually did read the comics, even though I didn't understand a lot of the stuff. I imagine I was like a lot of kids. It was the artwork and stuff, really neat artwork and stuff. The epicness of it, the powers that these characters had, and what they were able to do, these physical feats, impossible stuff, and just the fantasy of it. That just, again, it was kind of like it was just kind of like kid stuff for me. But I loved the '90s animated show, and I did collect some Wolverine comics too, since I'll be talking about Wolverine a little bit in this recording. And when I went to see X-Men in 2000, so excited to see this movie that they finally made a movie of the X-Men and not the whatever the stuff's supposed to be. I didn't even look it up, whatever that Generation X thing was. I don't even know what that was about. Didn't really. As far as these motion pictures are concerned that were serious and delivered for the sole purpose of putting these comic book characters on the screen, and really the thing that began this trend of big blockbuster comic book movies. X-Men and really Spider-Man, not even a year or so apart, back in 2000 or so. I think it's really what started this trend of comic book character-based movies that, especially if the money's put into it, that big $100 million budgets and plus $100 million plus budgets that end up making huge amounts of money and really doing well for their studios. We're into the second decade now of this trend, and by the looks of things, the way they've caught on to how they need to market things, and especially making big bucks overseas on these movies like the Avengers and all this stuff, that it'll probably be another decade and a half long before it really fizzles out, if it does fizzle out. But yeah, maybe I should talk about Spider-Man some other time now that I've mentioned Spider-Man, because there's definitely some differences. It would be a short video for sure, because I'm not a real big Spider-Man fan, although I do like some of the stuff. I wouldn't say I'm a Spider-Man fan in the same way I'm an X-Men fan. I guess that's the best way I could say it. But yeah, I love the first film. Again, it was the 90s cartoon that really, at that young age, etched certain characters into my mind. And I know some hardcore fans, X-Men lore encyclopedias, living, breathing X-Men, who know everything, and they know all the different writers and storylines and the different stories and sub-stories and the big epic tales that are all part of X-Men. Might correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure they could tell me whether or not the X-Men characters like Professor Xavier, Magneto, Cyclops, Jean, Storm, Wolverine, Beast, Gambit, Rogue, Jubilee, and all of the villains that they had throughout the seasons, Omega Red, Apocalypse, Mr. Sinister, Juggernaut, the Phoenix Saga, Days of Future Past. I know there were some changes, because I actually do have the Days of Future Past, the multi-comic, and just the single volume comic, that one thing that you can get that has the Sentinel, looks like he's trapped, and aged Wolverine, that has that cover on it. Anyway, that's the one I've got. I know they did change some things, but I know I'll get into that when I end up talking about what I see in X-Men Days of Future Past trailer that's now finally shown up with some action in it. Definitely talk about that toward the end of this recording, but that I'm sure somebody out there who listens to this could tell me if the 90s cartoon accurately portrayed the characters from the comics, the ones that were in the cartoon, that series, the animated series. But whether it was or wasn't, just for my part, it was really the 90s cartoon, the animated series, that etched certain characters, the way the characters were, that is, who they were, what made them what they were, their traits, into my mind. And so, even more so than the comic book, since I didn't read every single comic. I was a mid-90s kid. It was just a little bit of this and that, and I think Mr. Sinister and Apocalypse were kind of new to the story compared to some of the older things, since I know they've been making X-Men comics since the 60s. But to talk about the first film, when I saw that film, I was kind of blown away. It was like, okay, they finally put it on screen. This has been great. One thing that I hated about it was, of course, Wolverine not knowing who Sabretooth was. Like, Sabretooth? What's a Magneto? That kind of stuff. I was like, man, come on. Please don't do that. But they did. And it only got worse as time goes on as far as what Wolverine knew and didn't know. The horrible continuity issues that exist in the X-Men films that are just, again, I have to compare it in my mind to the Avengers. They've done a really good job, if you ask me, in the Avengers movies. Iron Man, Hulk, Thor, Captain America, and the Avengers movies, much better continuity than the X-Men films. Then again, I know that has to do with marketing. They plan on making another film and progressing the thing, and it's actually smart and makes sense. But the X-Men films, it seems like everybody wanted to get their own little twist in there, get their own little take, portray things, and bring out whatever lesson that they thought. And then in the end, it just seems like a big mess, especially the third film that I'll get into. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say now that X-Men 2000, the first film, is my favorite of the X-Men films that has come out today. It wasn't as long as some of the others, and I think maybe that's part of it, part of why I liked it, because the other ones, it's just kind of drawn out, but they're not actually doing anything. They're not actually saying anything. It's just fluff. It's just stuff that's there. I liked how the film introduced you to mutants, to mutation, to a universe where there are these mutants in it, and there's Senator Kelly, who's basically thinks he's put on this earth to do away with the mutants and defend his kind, as it were. And then there's Mystique and Magneto. I guess I'll end up getting into Magneto, how he seems to be, especially since some things in X-Men, The Last Stand, what a horrible subtitle, the third film, some things with Michael Fassbender being the young Magneto, and now that I see in the trailer, it's like they have Magneto just going all over the place now. It's like his character is, you knew, there was no doubt about his mindset in the first film, that there is no possible peaceable coexistence if it's up to letting one die and make sure the other ones live. He's going to make sure his kind, mutants, live and that humans can go. And that's what he lives and breathes, because, again, they gave you enough information concerning his traumatic past at the beginning of the first film with the concentration camp in Poland and all this stuff. The murder, the death, the darkness. To try and revisit that, it seems like a couple of times in the past movies they've made since then, it just seems like they just, do it or don't do it. We already understand, unless you're going to make a whole movie about his past, then just leave it alone, because I didn't really like what they did concerning his history and why he is the way he is, why his mind, why he thinks the way he does in First Class. I really didn't care for it. But I'll get to that too. but it's like in the first film there is no question. You don't really like he, he is what he is, but that determination of, I don't know, maybe I'll be able to explain it better as I keep going, but it just seems to buckle a little bit as you get into the next film where it's X-Men United. Granted, he's uniting with mutants, and then in the third film he finally gets what he wants. This idiotic cure weapon that he gets hit by, but it doesn't actually permanently cure him. You actually see that he has his powers by the end scene when he's moving the king or the queen or the knight or whatever it was on the chessboard in the park. But yeah, trying to stick to the first film for now. I kind of like the way they introduced Wolverine. He's in Canada, of course. Logan, just fighting for some money. The way he meets Rogue, I thought, yeah, it was kind of a neat enough way to do all that. The way they're attacked by Sabretooth, and does it hurt when they come out? When she asks him, it's like every time. And I saved your life. No, you didn't. That's classic Logan, though, isn't it? No, I don't know you anything. And then he thinks about it for a little while, and then he goes back and he does the right thing. And so, Cyclops. Poor Cyclops. I hate what they did with Cyclops really beginning in the second movie, since he didn't seem to have much of a part in that. And then the way they kill him off in the third movie with no apparent intentions on bringing him back. Kind of makes me sick, especially having grown up with the animated series. He is an actual leader. He's trying to be what he's supposed to be. Someone who takes responsibility. He's a team leader. A lot of people don't like him. They think he's uppity or whatever. But this wholesale 180 degrees difference from that and the comics to the movies is just, it's too much, to the point to where the movies are almost like an alternate reality, where Cyclops is at best someone who's kind of there, but then he can be easily killed off, and it's all about Logan. It's all about Wolverine. It's gotten really, really frustrating to me, because he's someone who he might be able to bark orders, and of course he has a fearlessness to him because, hey, what's there to be afraid of? He can just regenerate from his injuries. He might get everybody around him killed, but he can just fight on. That's not the kind of guy you need leading you. That kind of guy with those particular powers. You need somebody who's, like you, who can be hurt and who needs actual guidance, and not a fly off the handle dude who doesn't know his own past, and even when he does know his own past, is doing the same kind of things as when he does know his past. Kind of a recklessness to him, that always trying to find himself and find his way, and that's all fine and good, but it still doesn't excuse the way they killed off Cyclops' character. But I'm definitely rambling now, I know, like I always do, because so many things. I would literally have to watch the movie to bring out all the things that I would want to bring out. But yeah, the first movie is my favorite. The plot, what Magneto tries to do to mutate everybody, it reminds me of the kind of things he was willing to do in the comics and in the animated series, to mutate everybody and to try and bring about unity through coercion. That seemed like him. Like, if there can be any unity, it's going to be because mutants have the supreme or the dominant position in the future. And so, getting into the second film, of course, Logan is left, then he comes back. It seems so silly, and I don't know if it's it kind of just makes Wolverine look dumb, that whole thing at the end. Jean saying, the facility's underground. So he went all the way up there, sniffed around, saw a wolf, scared it away with his face, and didn't actually get any answers about his past that the professor was kind of, sort of willing to help him with. But, yeah. It just seems silly to me. Of course, Stryker, and I wouldn't mind this so much if they hadn't brought Stryker back for the Wolverine movie. It's like, how much of the comics was about this guy, this human enemy? I mean, was there really that much focus on him? I'm kind of excusing it, the whole human enemy thing, as far as what I've seen in the Days of Future Past trailer, because the thing that's got me so excited about watching Days of Future Past is the fact that it's called Days of Future Past. That's an actual X-Men storyline title, like the Phoenix Saga, or the Dark Phoenix, or, like this movie's called, Days of Future Past. They're actually going to try and tell an actual X-Men story instead of just this or that thing that somebody might like about X-Men, like, hey, look at Wolverine, look at his claws, look at the professor, he's bald and psychic and can control people and he's in a wheelchair, and this guy, he's a victim of the Holocaust, and so he's very angry, and he's ultimately he's a killer, and blah blah blah. To actually tell a story that's been on part of it's been a fan favorite for decades, and has actually been a part of X-Men mythos for so long, to actually go ahead and try and do that now, that's something for me to get excited about, and something for me to say, as much as I didn't like X-Men 3, as much as I was here and there about First Class, and as much as I just dislike the Wolverine films, the simple fact that they're actually going to tell an X-Men tale in this movie, granted it's going to be different because it's going to be on screen and there are things to be changed, blah blah blah. I mentioned in another video how I hate that they you can tell from the trailer that they're not going to have Quicksilver being Magneto's son, that he's just some guy that Wolverine knows who might be able to help him break out Magneto from his underground Pentagon prison. I'm just going off the trailer. Again, the movie's not even out yet, but I mean, that kind of ticks me off, because that goes directly against source material, doesn't it? I'm actually looking forward to Avengers Age of Ultron more than that. They're also going to not have Magneto, obviously, because of the objection of the studios refusing for it to happen. They're going to have Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch just be experimented on, or the children of people who are experimented on, or something like that. Who knows how they'll explain it, and it'll all be part of Hydra or whatever. And then, who knows? But I know that it's not lining up with the source material, but still, I'm looking forward to the Avengers movie as far as Quicksilver's character goes, more than X-Men Days of Future Past. But there are other things that I'm definitely looking forward to about it. How you see the Sentinels, the 1970s Sentinels, and then you see these futuristic things. It looks like from the trailer that Storm will die. I know that happened in the comics. And Days of Future Past is like Wolverine gets fried, Storm gets run through by a Wolverine like gets his flesh melted off till it's just an adamantium skeleton. I got that comic. Storm gets impaled by some spike, like the Sentinel can actually shoot spikes out of its little javelins out of its hand too. Colossus knocks the Sentinel clean out of this huge building, and then you don't see him dying, but it's like Kitten Pride or somebody like senses it or something, like so quickly, like Colossus is dead too. So I guess maybe they'll try and it'd be like an ode to the comics that way, if that's what really happens. Is you see that one little scene of him jumping over the balcony, sneaking up behind Storm with that knife or whatever. But I hope, I mean, we've waited a long time. I hope that the actual Sentinel from the comic books and the animated series, and you know what I'm talking about, they did not do it in X-Men 3. Somebody might say, well, they kind of did it, and then you can tell from the head of the thing that Wolverine cut off in the Danger Room sequence that was one of the Sentinels, but come on now. Even if it's just Mega Mold or something like that, just one. I want to see one Sentinel one of the futuristic Sentinels, and not the new things either. The things that are like giants. I'm talking about the big boys, the big ones that like apprehend mutants, pick them up, and fly them hundreds of miles to the facility or the camps or whatever. You know the one I'm talking about. I don't remember the actual name of it, but you know what I'm talking about. An X-Men comic book Sentinel. That's what I want to see. Or animated series, Sentinel. I want to see that, even if it's just one, in Days of Future Past when I go and see it, hopefully later on this month or the beginning of June. That's what I want to see. But Wolverine, and this is what's one of the irritating things about the second film. Really, the first opening scene, let me make sure to talk about that. Nightcrawler taking the whole White House by himself. That was great. That was really good. Maybe the best scene in the whole film. Just watch that and then beat traffic, leave early. Wolverine sort of finds out about his past, but not. You find out Stryker worked for the government, and he actually plays people and does some illegal things. He plays the president, said, "Mr. President, if we had been allowed to do our job," and all this. And the president, of course, is easily swayed to let him go in and kidnap all the... It was definitely an upping the ante. The whole thing, the sequence where they break into the school, children are frightened, you see some shooting. It looks like somebody actually did try to shoot Colossus. It turns into his metal self, bullets bounce off him. To watch him ragdoll those guys, throw them through the wall, yeah, that was neat, it was cool. But on and on it goes. It seems like that film, it kind of slowed down in the middle and just wasn't really enjoyable. You got this subplot with Pyro. He's looking longingly at that photograph of Iceman's family. And Bobby's been away from his family. The whole thing with him and Rogue, you feel for him, but it's like, I don't know why. Maybe it was the cinematography, but I was just like, I'm not feeling it. I'm not gonna say I don't care. No, that's too harsh. That would be kind of cold. I'm just saying, it seemed like something you would see maybe on a TV special, something on the television or something, not a drama element in an actual motion picture or movie where things have slowed down. You're about to really be hit in the gut by something. No, it just seems like something that's just being carried on and on. They can't touch because she will drain his life force and put him into a coma. You feel for him. It's just, maybe it was the acting. I don't know. I haven't critiqued it lately enough to be able to say, maybe it was the actual performance that made me think that. Maybe, who knows? But all I remember is just thinking, okay, let's get on with some action. Let's get on with some mutants fighting, or let's go blow something up. It's like nothing's happening here. We understand. Now let's move on to the next plot. Anyway, I just remember feeling that back in the day when I was younger, watching the film. I was like, what? Let's go do something else. Anyway, it's such a waste. The film, there's an element of it that seems like such a waste. I know that Bryan Singer directed X-Men 1, X-Men 2, and that those are the two films. Again, I think the first one is the best X-Men movie that I've seen so far. It's a favorite of all the ones they've made so far. And that he made the ones that most people like the most, 1 and 2, because X-Men 3 is right out for all the reasons that I'll be sure to get into, or try and get into a bunch of them that I know everybody else has already ranted on before. People were kind of mixed about First Class, even though it was, as reboots go, there's more than enough in it to easily get people interested again. But the way X-Men 2 ended, and then what they did with X-Men 3 is just, it's kind of crazy. It really is kind of crazy, because really, the Phoenix Saga, I want to say, it's as big of an X-Men story, fan favorite, as far as the danger, what weighed in the balance, what was on the line, the future's on the line, it was as big or bigger to me as Days of Future Past was. And yet, that was just atrocious what they did in the third film. Jean Grey, you can see she's having problems. You see her full bore turn into the Phoenix, and if you read the comics or if you even saw the animated series, you know this Jean character, something happens to her where she turns into this fiery, mystical, bird-like creature. And of course, I guess really, to think about it now, it didn't bode well the way it happened in the ending of the third film, with her trying to hold back the water for everybody to escape from the underground facility that Wolverine wasn't able to find when he went there at the beginning of the film because, well, whatever. Because in the comics and in the animated series, Jean wasn't some struggling mutant who couldn't control her ultra-powerful powers in her subconscious mind. No, that's just some more made-up junk. She was taken over altogether by this super powerful being and used as a host for a brief time by the Phoenix. She was not the Phoenix. The Phoenix became one with her for a time to defeat what were they called? The Shi'ar Empire? Yeah. So I guess maybe I shouldn't have got my hopes up. Maybe we shouldn't have got our hopes up from the ending, since she basically becomes this, the way her eyes catch fire and she fades away and all this stuff. And again, I was choking up tears. I'm right there with Cyclops before he gets killed off, and with Logan, like, she's gone. It's like, it was emotional. It got me. I admit it. The ending got me. It kind of depressed me, because I'm like, okay, we've lost somebody here. We're able to rescue the mutants. Magneto sort of got his revenge, because just like Stryker is dead now. Pyro switched sides, not for the peaceful or the possible peaceful route. Let's go take him out. He's more of that mindset. And it's just mind-blowing what happens in the third film then. I'm with other people. I'm with people who like Kelsey Grammer as Beast. Yes, I loved him as Beast. One of the few things about the film I did like. Archangel, I don't know why he was even in the movie, because they try and use this imagery of someone who wants to hang on to his powers, and he has some issues with his dad, wanting him to take the cure, and then at the end he saves his dad's life, and so maybe his dad says, okay, it's all for the best, and I love you either way, but there's no dialogue that says that. And furthermore, they didn't do justice to the Angel character anyway, since that was nothing like in the comics or the excuse me, animated series. I mean, he was just tortured. I mean, just going off of the animated series, he was just tortured individual after having been forced to be like this evil, for a brief time, mind-controlled servant of Apocalypse who wanted to destroy Apocalypse more than anything, because his beautiful wings were taken away and he was left like an abomination of sorts, and yet he was still this like really cool mutant that you liked. But in the movie, what was that? It's kind of a blur. You don't even know. I mean, I like that actor. I think I've talked about him before. Is it Ben Foster? Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I liked him. But as far as, I mean, why is Angel in the film? I don't know. And it's such a huge tease to the point of, like, you want to slap somebody, because the Danger Room sequence, the way it opens up, the Sentinel thing, where did that even come from? How do they know about Sentinels? Are there Sentinels in real life there then? Are they out and about? Do they know about some secret government program where the Sentinels are being made? Are we going to be introduced to Bolivar Trask in this movie? No. It's just a one-off. basically just messing with you. Whole thing with Bobby's gonna be loving on what's her name, Kitten Pride, and Rose giving suspicious looks. It's like, man, this is not a soap opera. Can we get on with this? Storm's getting fed up with Logan. We have to work as a team. Yeah, I'm sure that'll work. You do get to see the fastball special. Colossus throws Wolverine, tears the head off, falls down. You can see, yeah, that's the head of a Sentinel. I hope to see a Sentinel finally in this movie. I really want to see a Sentinel. I hope they do justice to the Sentinels. I hope Bryan Singer does justice to the Sentinels in this movie. And hopefully it'll be a good one. But yeah, that whole thing in X-Men 3, I'll just call it X-Men 3 because The Last Stand, it's such a bogus, it makes no sense. The Last Stand, like the final showdown, it's not. Think about it. Think about that scene. It takes forever for Magneto to move the Golden Gate Bridge, and you're thinking, why? There's easier ways for them to get across. Was he just trying to take out the bridge and just do it all in one fell swoop so nobody can get to it? Or no, that doesn't make sense either. The way when they start shooting the stupid little plastic darts for the cure, I hated that. When I watched the movie the first time, I hated that scene with what's-his-face, the guy from some movies I don't watch, Texas Chainsaw. I know that's his voice. I know that's that guy, that, what is it, Full Metal Jacket, drill sergeant guy, that voice, that's it, he did that narrating. Get all your plastic, get all your metal, no metal allowed. Pick up your plastic cure guns, plus pick up your plastic suits and all this stuff. It's like, man, it seems like a skit. Like an SNL, Mad TV skit, a comedy skit, having that dude's voice in there like that. And the guy who was the president. And the scene with did he call him Trask? Come to think of it, the black guy from Commando. And what is it, Payback with Mel Gibson? I'm trying to think of movies I've seen him in. Real tall black guy. Did he call him Trask at some point? I'm starting to think he did. What another lame moment. She's been mimicking Senator or assistant or whatever his title was. I forget. Secretary, whatever. That scene with that guy who seems like another person who's like, what is it? Seems like he seems out of place in this film. The interrogation scene, and everything about it seems bad the more I think about it. You know, the way Magneto, when they rescue her from the semi, the dialogue she has with the guard, when I get out of here, I'm going to kill you, when she's a little girl and stuff. It's like, man, this is retarded. Juggernaut being in there. Multiple Man. I guess maybe you can give Multiple Man a break. I guess if he's a smart aleck, maybe they actually did something right out of 2 or 3 things they throw at you all at once right there. But Juggernaut should have been way better. Even if you use Vinnie Jones, I mean, Hulk automatically gets CGI. They're turning him into this big, huge thing now. Well, Juggernaut is roughly the same size. In all the comics, he ought to... He's freakishly big. He's not just a big guy where he gets a little momentum and nothing stops the Juggernaut. It's like, make him big. Make him huge. You got a scene in the movie of this guy who he must weigh 400, 500 pounds, and then his mutant power is he slims down so much so he can actually fit in a seat there in the auditorium. It's like, and you can't do anything for Juggernaut? Come on. Again, I guess it's the script as well, the dialogue, the way They got the guy who was one of the Asian bad guys from Rush Hour. His little prickly powers, he like a cactus man or something. He can poison people who are basically hugging him. They got to be so close. Back off. You know who you're talking to? Do you? And all, man, the stuff just seemed bad to me. I mean, I can't even think about it without being. Anyway, let me keep going. They never ever talk about it. They just do it. Okay, Magneto, you can see him kind of coming into his own again. You know what he wants. You know the lengths he's willing to go to get it. He is willing even to kill this little boy who supposedly is he a mutant or is he not? I don't even remember the cure. It's like in his DNA or whatever. Neat little scene. Beast is trying to shake his hand, and his hand actually becomes unbeastly. It becomes like a normal hand. That little emotional scene. That was good. Some neat stuff. I liked it. But they're going to kill the kid to ensure that the cure does not continue because we're mutants and proud of it. Okay. The whole ending. What a sham! What a sham movie it was. Last Stand. How many mutants was there? Storm, Wolverine, Colossus, Beast, and Kitten Pride. Well, like 5 people. Oh, and Iceman. Sorry. Bobby's there. Rogue is not there. She's gone for the. Oh, and I am so gonna jump on this. A good point made by. Let me give kudos to the first person who brought this out, and it's such a good point. It's been years since I watched his rant. I don't know if it was. I listened to several different. I just call them my ranters because that's mainly when I go. I mean, I like hearing their opinion in general, but the most memorable stuff is usually rants. I don't know who it was. I'm going to go ahead and go out on a limb and say it was Zaron Isaac in his X-Men 3 rant. The way... And even in the animated series, there's this emotional stuff that's really good stuff that probably get me right now, hit me in the gut right now, in my heart, if I were to watch it right now, just sit down and watch it. How Rogue, and in the comic book series, in the comics apparently is also offered the opportunity to take the cure, whether it's permanent or not, like twice, and doesn't take it either time, but chooses to remain as she is. How powerful that is. How so much more powerful than... And again, I'm not knocking the actress either. I can't recall her name right now. I think she's going to be in it. I've heard stuff online saying, is she going to be in the movie or is she not going to be in Days of Future Past? But hopefully she'll be in it a little bit. Anyway, how she goes and she takes it. She takes the cure. But I mean, for what? For what, man? So that we can see her and Bobby smooch at the end of the film. This isn't what I wanted. No, it's what I wanted. Yeah, how great was that? How great was that? Like another little sub point that just you see it and it's gone. And I admit, even I don't care if I sound heartless or not, I didn't feel anything really. Literally, the 90s animated series I consider as having more heart than that stuff, because at least the animated series was faithful to the comic book source of it always being Gambit as this love interest that kind of was and then wasn't and then was. But no, we've got to have Gambit as just some guy who's kind of in the movie for 5 minutes in the Wolverine X-Men Origins. So yeah, I'm glad I mentioned that. It no impact whatsoever, if you ask me, none. I mean, even the thing is, even I mean, if you have good dialogue and you have good acting, I'm not knocking their acting, I'm mainly knocking the dialogue, the script, the thing these actors were given to say and do in the film. You could go the route of her being cured, but I mean, actually give this stuff time to breathe. It could have been powerful. It could have been, but the way they did it, it wasn't. And they didn't even try to give the actually be faithful to the source material and have Rogue just not go through with any of that. Just be a mutant. Be herself. And the ending, of course, Cyclops has died, killed off like it was nothing. Nothing. By not even the Phoenix, just a ticked off, unstable Jean Grey who can't control her powers, can't control herself. Didn't even do justice to the Phoenix character. The Phoenix character is so much more interesting than this thing in this movie was. Much more interesting when you consider even the animated series. I'm not even going to go off the comics in this talk. Just the animated series, how much more interesting she was from the things that she said, what her motivations were, how she sensed love in what was the family, the friends of Jean Grey, how they were willing to sacrifice for her and their emotional bond and stuff. Appreciation. So much more, so much better than just giving Jean Grey the black eye darkness, the shark eye effect, and having her blow people up. It's insane. It's insane. And I was actually at the, it was while I was still in the Air Force, stationed at Dover Air Force Base, the on-base theater. Only showed one movie at a time in there. It's just one little theater. I watched this there, and the ending of that film had me kind of upset. I'm like, man, they just blow up all these soldiers and disintegrate them like the effect in Mario Brothers, like it's nothing at the end. She's just insane, killing everybody, zapping everybody, and everybody's just dissolving into space. Absolutely crazy. You see Wolverine, the slow motion march of death, blows off some skin on his chest. You see his adamantium frame, his forehead. You see his adamantium forehead. You would die for them? No, for you. Like, kill me. It's so... No power. Really, the only attachment that you feel as you watch her die and the anguish he feels at having to do it is because... almost not even because of what's happening. That's like secondary. You are kind of attached to the characters because of the previous two films and this one. And the shock, maybe more even shock value than emotional impact, as you're asking yourself, this is really happening. One of those kind of moments is like, are they actually killing off everybody in this movie? Professor Xavier's dead because Magneto was an absolute lunatic and was willing to get him killed. No, Charles, you've always stood in her way. But then again, I guess maybe when I think about it, maybe that scene between those two really cuts to the heart of their differences. Could I think of that as a redeeming thing? No, because it's insane that the professor would die. It really is that Charles Xavier would... that would happen. And again, it's all nonsense because the whole thing of Phoenix and the way he was dying and what was causing his death, her blowing him up, it's insane anyway because that's not what the Phoenix is. And there's nothing else that I know of in X-Men lore that could do that. Stupid junk. Don't let it control you. So sick. The way he looks at Wolverine. Wolverine's coming there trying to help him, stuck up against the ceiling, and that little grin like it's okay right before he bursts like a water balloon. Really sick. Really, really sick. I mean, in the back of my mind, I was watching it thinking, well, this is the professor, something. This is somebody's dreaming. This is, who knows? This is X-Men. Anything's really possible. You got people who can control you can move things with their mind, and people who can make other people think things. I mean, come on. So I guess maybe that's the one thing that's going to be able to let the story start to be redeemed a little bit now that Bryan Singer is taking the helm again. And I did watch the definitive, The Wolverine, which really was a boring film. The ending scene, very neat, that almost funeral-like music. What was it, an organ or something? You see the professor on it, he's wheeling up. And I told you, you're not the only one with gifts. And you saw at the ending, the after credits scene at X-Men 3, Maura McTaggart, and I recall the whole speech, the ethics class he was giving his students about what if we transplanted the consciousness of someone else into, would we be doing something wrong? The very interesting conversation that he had with the kids early on in the film. And so okay, so the professor's basically alive. But they have yet to explain, and this is another reason I got to go see the film, find out how. And they better not have the audacity not to say anything at all to try and explain it. They better explain how he got his body back. Or is it all just a projection of himself? I guess if that happened, we'd have to just go with it. But I hope there's something better than that. That he's just projecting the appearance of himself from his bed-bound quadriplegic character that he beamed his mind into before the Phoenix blew him up. I hope they have a better explanation than that, because granted, in the story he's the professor and he can do that, but I mean, come on. Walking and talking, or talking with Magneto and telling Wolverine, you have to go back. You have to find me. Because in the trailer, he's walking around, talking with Magneto, talking with Wolverine, saying, be patient with me. Help me. Guide me. It's like, are these the same characters as the former films? Because they didn't get along this well. And then there's Magneto, all those years we spent fighting each other, Charles. It's like, no, all the years you spent as a villain. Not we, you. It just seems kind of silly. I hope the movie's good, though. I'm sure that it is going to be. I know the first one was just this downright mopey, depressing sounding thing. It reminded me of the trailer for The Dark Knight Rises, that serious, we're oppressed by something feeling. But finally, a few weeks ago, they actually had this trailer that actually shows some Sentinels and actually has some action. Granted, the whole thing seemed to be this cutesy-poo, wink-wink at the camera movie where there's Wolverine again at the head of it all, having to gather up all these people, and you see the mailbox says Maximoff. There's Quicksilver, he's just some guy, he's not Magneto's son, he's just some guy who's really fast, like the girl at the end of X-Men 3 who can help him bust out Magneto, and I'm sure it's going to be good. I'm intrigued with the Bolivar Task, and that actor, the little person, that actor who plays him. It's a really neat thing to me to finally see that character brought to, because he's all about the Sentinels. You'll need my weapon to defeat this new enemy. It's so great. I know I'm gonna love him in the movie when I watch it. Hopefully in a month or so from now. I'm sure it's gonna do well too. If as many people who have watched the trailer go and watch the film, it's going to be a hit, a blockbuster, maybe break records and all the rest, because it's the new X-Men flick, so it's going to be big. But yeah, the whole thing, ending of X-Men 3 was just, it's downright disappointing. You're like, this is the third film in a trilogy. You don't go out like this. Yeah, Archangel's flying around. Professor's dead. Cyclops is dead. Jean is dead. Forget this stinking movie. the same actor playing the bartender when Wolverine gets back up to Canada, somewhere in Canada. You going home? Then we get Wolverine, X-Men Origins. What a crazy little title, considering they didn't actually do any other films that way. X-Men Origins, when they, I guess, had planned on doing a series. It would have been nice, to be honest with you, to see a movie all about Magneto and really get into his history and his psyche, really tell the tale. But no, they do this thing where they just throw a little bit more than they did in the previous films in with First Class, and it just came off as, I mean, to do that and to tell an X-Men tale, a full plot tale with villains like Kevin Bacon as Sebastian Shaw. It's just, and to introduce this new actor, Michael Fassbender, as Magneto. Just, I didn't like it overall. Like, in the movie, you're entertained because you paid your money and you like certain parts of it, but overall, it's like, I wish they'd done things differently. That's what I end up saying. But to talk about X-Men Origins, let's talk about that train wreck. I'm sorry, Wolverine, the first one. What was the atrocious character debauching thing this time? It had to be Deadpool. And I agree that it was the absolute perfect casting. Ryan Reynolds. I mean, he's, especially then, not that he's out of shape now, far from it, I know, it's just the look of him and the way he is in other films and real life, that cockiness, the smirk, how would they say it, the murk with the mouth. This mercenary guy, he's so good with the swords and stuff. It would have been neat. I wish they hadn't had Deadpool in the movie as to have it done the way that they did. Hopefully, even if he doesn't get his own movie, hopefully he'll be in the X-Force movie. That's something else to look forward to if it actually happens, but who knows what characters they'll actually throw in. The idiotic decisions that Hollywood makes sometimes, they might not even have Cable. They might not even have key ingredients, key characters, but whatever. He ends up being a collage of all these different mutants, Cyclops eyes, the teleporter guy, adamantium swords that somehow, it's solid. It's supposed to be solid metal, and yet it's in his arm somehow, and his arms can move. That's retarded. That's impossible. When his arm would bend, the sword would... Because the swords were long that came out of him. They were like full-length ninja swords, unless my eyes were mistaken. To see him zapping all around, I mean, it's a neat thing, but that's the kind of thing to end up with a collage of all these different powers, this combination thing. That's the kind of thing, it's kind of like in my rant on when I was talking about Aliens 3. If Aliens 3 wasn't called Aliens 3, if it was just called, like, maybe Dead Space before the Dead Space video game came out and took that name. Something like that, where everyone you care about just kind of dies in the end. Some artsy-fartsy thing. The way I had talked about how if Aliens 3 had been its own movie, with all the same things, just with different names, with characters that you didn't care about, that you'd only just introduced to, and they died, and you're having to think about death and stuff, because so many people die in this film, that Aliens 3, by itself, not called Aliens, but a whole separate thing, it would have actually been a really interesting movie, I think, my opinion. Same thing with the Deadpool character. But to call him Deadpool, to call him Wade, and to have a really good choice of actor to portray that particular guy with his cocky mouth and his particular build and his abilities, is like, what a disaster. And Sabretooth, Victor Creed being Wolverine's stepbrother, I mean, you could go that route, but I mean... And again, I like the actor who played Victor Creed / Sabretooth. It's just the Sabretooth who was actually Sabretooth in the first X-Men film actually looked more the part. A big, imposing guy who was actually much bigger than Wolverine. And again, it kind of boils down to Hugh Jackman again, playing Wolverine. He's this tall, slender guy. Granted, he gets ripped. He gets just jacked up. Hugh Jackman gets jacked. These actors, I'm thinking about them now, what they do to themselves. Hugh Jackman Chris Evans as Captain America when he's just in his t-shirt. You can tell how buff these guys get ripped to be these strongman characters. Kind of like the action stars back in the day. Schwarzenegger, Stallone, The Rock now is going to be Hercules, all this stuff. But he's still so tall. And it's like, that's not Wolverine. That's not Logan. Logan is a genuinely... If he were any taller, he wouldn't be short. But he is technically... It's like he's a short guy. But it don't matter. That's the thing about it, because it's Wolverine. You know, kind of like a Wolverine, you know, get it? Logan, shorter, with thick muscles. He's a... Not stocky. He's a brawny, thick muscle, thick thighs, thick biceps, triceps guy. But no, he's Clint Eastwood. Hugh Jackman is Clint Eastwood. I remember somebody saying, yeah, there's this one scene, the way you're walking, the way you look, and you look, come through the door, it's like a Clint Eastwood. Well, that's right. And so Victor Creed is supposed to be playing this character who's this big, imposing guy, supposed to be noticeably larger than Wolverine throughout the whole movie. But yeah, it's just another thing that I like the actor, but I mean, I felt like either give him the Gandalf effect, make him bigger, or don't do it the way they did it, because yeah, he's just fingernails, man, through the whole movie. More Stryker. Interesting beginning, kind of artsy, having Wolverine. Tragic beginning. It's like he killed his own father, Logan did. He's not Wolverine yet. I misspoke myself. Stryker again, trying to find these mutants, use them as weapons. And again, this is the thing that gets me about Wolverine. There's this self-righteousness that you see in different parts of the X-Men films. You know, sometimes when you cage the animal gets mad. I'm like, dude, even when you do know something, you learn something about your past, you're still... And then again, this is not the comic books. This is not the animated series that I invite everybody to go and see that Wolverine, because that Wolverine's a really cool cat who actually works through his problems is himself. Not by himself, but he doesn't just throw temper tantrums and that's the end of it. He actually grows over time, whereas on the big screen in cinema, Hugh Jackman, again, I kind of like Hugh Jackman, but I mean, as Wolverine, it just seems like the first movie was good, and then it just, same with X-Men in general, as far as the movies go, it's been going downhill. How did I even get onto that thought? Oh yeah, how he has this kind of these self-righteous moments, but it's like he volunteers to be a weapon, a super soldier, and just kill for these governments, even when he knew who he was, you know? So it's like, I watch Wolverine, I watch those movies to the point to where it's like, all in all, it's not like this guy's really changing. Maybe you disagree, it's just my opinion, that's all this stuff is opinion, but it's like, the way it comes across in film, with the Spaceballs the 2 effect of the search for more money, they make another movie, and so, well, what is it? What's special about Wolverine? Well, he's got some problems. He's got a berserker rage that unfortunately you never see in the films because it's all PG-13 stuff, and he has to try and remember his past, and he has to work through these issues, but he's not exactly a gentle man, but he's a good guy. He has a code of honor in the end, and he's, you know, there's really something to him. But to see him have to repeat that kind of thing over and over again with his character, at least the way it's scripted, not really seeming to learn anything. It's like you can watch these movies to the point of thinking that Wolverine, maybe he doesn't have that character. And I know that's not right. It just has to do with the jacked up way that they're portraying these stories. I'm looking forward to X-Men Days of Future Past. I feel it's needful for me to say that again. I'm looking forward to Hugh Jackman as Wolverine again. It's just, I hope he doesn't take up so much of the spotlight as in the former films. I mean, there's so many mutants. I'm surprised looking at IMDb before about how they managed to get so many mutants for the 2 different timelines. a set of mutants in the future as resistance fighters against the Sentinels' oppression, and then the 1970s stuff with a whole other set. It's good. Hopefully it'll work. I'm just hopeful is all I can say, because until you see the film, you just left thinking it's going to be the adventures of Wolverine again, since I know that's the way people think about the first X-Men film, because of how much of the storytelling time seemed to have Wolverine's character in it, instead of developing other characters. Like, you want to shove Beast and Angel into X-Men 3? Let's find out more about these characters. Which, at least I'm thankful that they actually go into Hank McCoy a little bit in First Class. But I guess I'll get to that after the Wolverine, because I didn't mean to, but I guess I am doing them in chronological order when they were released in theaters, if not when they were supposedly taking place in an actual time scale. And speaking on that, I don't know if I really agree with all this junk that they've been doing in these promos, trying to make real-life events and use actual historic... The Kennedy assassination and Magneto's on the grassy knoll, and that junk. I mean, come I wish they wouldn't do stuff like that. And what else was it? He was like a terrorist or whatever. And Lee Harvey Oswald and Magneto. There was some other... It was one of the mutants. And what's the other thing? I mean, it was kind of neat at the end of X-Men First Class, seeing the standoff between the Soviets and the Americans at Cuba, and the submarine out of the water. The missiles. It was neat for sure. And granted, I like the way they would... That is something that if, like they have it in this fantasy world, the comic book characters come to life on the big screen, in real life, that is the kind of thing that would have been kept under wraps, top secret. So it's kind of a neat thing. All the soldiers would have been sworn to sweet secrecy about the things that they saw that day and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, I still wish they wouldn't. I mean, the promos are too much. It's not even actually in the film. Or who knows? Maybe it will be in the film, and I don't know because I haven't seen it yet, because I was ranting about Prometheus, how they had those stupid promos of David, Michael Fassbender's android, and Guy Pearce as a young Wayland, and yet that wasn't in the film. So yeah, if it's just for spreading the gossip on the internet and stuff, I'm like, I can do without that junk. Anyways, back to the film. X-Men Wolverine Origins. I don't want your diamonds. I want this. The adamantium. Because he's an adamantium junkie. Stryker is an adamantium junkie. He's got to have his adamantium. So, Ryan Reynolds does his super fast swords, ricochets all the bullets, and ends up killing all the bad guys, or the illegal diamond miners, or whatever those guys are supposed to be over in Africa or whatever. They get the stuff, and the thing about it is kind of annoying. You see this great sequence that really was artsy and interesting, all the wars that he and Victor had been through together. The Revolution, this, that, and the other, the Civil War, the 2 world wars, and then Vietnam, when Victor's getting out of hand, he's not behaving at all, wants to... What was it, about rape or something? He's going to rape that woman. Soldier, you put that woman down or whatever. Like, kills the guy, and then they're, like, sentenced to firing squad or whatever. And there's Wolverine, and all he can do is give him the evil eyes, like, what have you done to us, you idiot? It was neat to see the bone claws, the pre-adamantium stuff, to show that he always did have the claws. He always had them. And it was kind of a smart move, I suppose, really thinking about it, because to actually go into later films, it was a smart move to have that done that way. But to have him just kind of standing around, he didn't do anything in that opening sequence. You get to see Agent Zero, whoever that is. I didn't look at it. I haven't read enough comics to even know who that was. He could have been some made-up guy for all I know. Tank, the Blob, it was neat to see him, but again, they didn't do justice to his character, and somebody might say, well, he's the Blob, who cares? I care. He's a character. Kind of a funny character in the animated series, the Blob. And Pyro done totally different in the animated series than in the movies and the comics. He's just standing around observing and becomes basically a conscientious objector. It's like, I don't want to be part of this, and no wonder, because they are just a killing squad, basically. No honor, they're just doing whatever Stryker says. He leaves them. Kind of emotional. Then again, I guess I get choked up about anything. I don't know why he was calling him, Jimmy! 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 As Wolverine's walking off the set. He's out of here. He's walking out of the picture altogether. And then in Canada, who was that supposed to be? I know it's not Psylocke. Was it Shadowcat? Whatever the character's name, the woman who could touch you, and only by touching you she could cause you to think whatever she wanted you to think and do whatever she told you to do, like she did at Stryker at the end. That whole thing was just, I'm sorry, I don't know if it's I'm sure it's not in the comics, because I don't think even the animated series would have deviated so far from the comics as what they do in this film. Correct me if I'm wrong. If you know the comics that well, please tell me what happened to her, because I know in the end of this movie, this stupid movie, she dies. Can't believe I watched this junk twice. To think about it now, I'm like, am I so desperate to go and see something that I halfway enjoy? But I did. I went to see Wolverine Origins twice. And so that's sad thinking about it. Me and my family, that's 6 tickets. Wow. Anyway, I know that wasn't Psylocke. I forget the character's name, but you know who I'm talking about, the love interest. The one who has to have the long story about Wolverine and what it means, the name that she gave him. Kind of touching. At least they give you something of a story, even if maybe it is or isn't, I don't know, faithful to the mythos. But what was I asking for people to comment about if it's not right? First of all, who she was, and did she really die like that? Because that's the thought I had. You don't make movies like this. That's not good storytelling. It's not only depressing, like a drama, the love interest has died. He doesn't even know who she is at that point because he was shot in the head and lost all his memories. The adamantium bullet. A bullet that jumped up and bit you. That's a whole nother movie. You want to cry because she's dead, and it's like Gambit's there. You know her? Look, these cops are showing up, sirens of all things, at this secret facility. Look, these boys aren't going to believe what happened here. I can take care of myself. He's back to being the Beast again, Wolverine. Really the beginning of Wolverine, since it seems like no matter what you do, you always see him not knowing who he is. So maybe that was the very beginning of Wolverine right there, with him saying, I can take care of myself. I can get out on my own. Whatever he said at the end of Wolverine Origins. Because he never knows who he is. It's like even when he does know, he still doesn't know. So maybe somebody can tell me more about her character in the comments, because I'm pretty sure she's the same one who's in the animated series in one of the later seasons, season 4 or 5. There were artificial memories put into his head as part of some operation. He sees their names cut into that tree with the hearts around it, like Logan and so-and-so. I forget her name, Forever Love so-and-so. And again, more emotional drama with Wolverine in later episodes of, so what if some of my memories aren't even real? And I gotta tell you, the animated series did such a better job of Wolverine and other characters, making you care for them. Because one thing about it, the show was supposed to be meant for kids, but they were not afraid to deal with the issues. And that's one thing I love about the animated series and why I think it's so good. and my favorite thing of X-Men done on screen so far. If I wanted to introduce somebody to X-Men, who I know everybody in the world's heard of X-Men by now, but I was like, have you ever seen the animated series? That's what I would say. Even though the first movie is my favorite of the movies, I would still direct people toward the animated series, because I think it's the best thing X-Men done on film yet. But let me try and get past her character. Who was her sister supposed to be? Was that supposed to be, about to say Emma Stone, because I've been reading her name as I've been reading about Spider-Man 2. No, Frost. Emma Frost, the Frost lady that you see in, well, not the same actress, but the character you're supposed to see in, I guess it's the same character as you see in First Class. Correct me if I'm wrong. Supposed to be her sister. Did you know her sister has diamond hard skin? And so he gets played. They had set it up to make it look like she had died. And she was willing to go through with that and do that to him, supposedly to help get her sister released. And then he's like, you're free to go, or whatever. It's like, what is this all about? What is this all about, really? Wolverine realizes he's been double-crossed. Got the thing where he feels betrayed. I thought I was your Wolverine. No, I was the fool that got played. Good scene. It's like, but it's still like, what is this stuff? He immediately goes out after another fight with Victor, not even Sabretooth, Victor. He's got the adamantium fist, adamantium everything, pops him in the face. It's one thing I do like about the film, the contrast in the battle scenes, the fight scenes. Without the adamantium, Victor took him earlier in the film. Even stomped off his claws, and you hear that, that anguish scream and stuff, and you see how strong he is, picking the big logs up off and stuff. Good effect. And then the way he has the adamantium later, he's just taking him down so much easier. That was neat. A good difference that was clearly visible, that actually made sense. I just wish they'd actually do like the comics, have Sabretooth adamantium version, the one that tore out Wolverine's throat, like the really bad Sabretooth. That would be interesting to see in the movies, but again, I think they need CGI to really do a little bit of CGI to do justice to that character, because they're basically giant dudes. I can't get over it. You know I'm right when I say that Juggernaut should have had some CGI treatment, but I think even Sabretooth should have some too. Anyway, I'm having flashbacks to my childhood. All of a sudden I got derailed thinking about this, and actually to my teen years when I first saw the first X-Men, and my grandparents and my grandma and my grandpa was still alive. I'm glancing across the way to the house they live in right now, or they lived in. My Aunt Marianne lives there now. Life just goes on and on, doesn't it? Anyways, back to my rambling review, rant, thought, whatever. Did I like X-Men Origins? Why do I keep saying that? Wolverine Origins. Back in the day when it first came out, yes, it's an entertaining mess, and it really is still an entertaining mess. But overall, I wish... I really wish these stories, because they do have something to offer, more justice could be done to them. I like the first film, even with Logan not knowing who Sabretooth was. But some of the stuff, the liberties they take, like with Deadpool, having Logan kill his father accidentally at the beginning of the film, it's a little bit nuts. I know I end up saying that about several movies lately, but it really is. The stupid after credit scene of Logan had cut Baraka pulls, that's what everybody else calls him, Baraka pulls uh, head off, and you see him like groaning or moaning or trying to reattach his head because he has regenerative capabilities. It's retarded. I mean, they're not going to have another movie with that thing in it. That's not Deadpool. It's crazy. Let me just skip to the end. I'm tired of actually talking about this one because it's that bad. Gambit, not done justice to. One little special effects scene. Throws the bow or whatever it is, that cane thing of his, kind of neat, down. You see some of what he's capable of with his power. Still not done justice. He can fly a plane. Okay, that's interesting. He can fly a plane. He takes Logan to the place. Is this gonna hurt? Yeah, it is. Logan jumps out. Horrible CGI. Splash in the water. And Gambit doesn't do anything else except for one little thing at the end. It's like it's a waste. They had so many little characters they wanted to throw in there. Cameo appearances from people who you don't know anything about because they haven't been properly introduced, and who knows if they ever will get their own film. Anyway, moving on. Let me just. And another thing, it almost seems like a horror movie now because I kind of like the one guy, the black guy who was a teleporter, a neat character. The way he died, thinking about it now and some of the other imagery from the film that's just kind of popping in my head, it's almost like a horror movie because you actually cared about that guy and the way he died, the way Victor killed him, the way he killed him in the alley and everything. It's like, yeah, it's a bad movie. Let me go on to the next one. Let me just go straight to, no, let me talk about stupid First Class now. I do not dislike James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender. I had never really seen them in a lot of movies. No, as a matter of fact, I couldn't recall that Fassbender was in 300, and so I watched First Class thinking, I've never seen these guys before. Well, whatever. These are the guys who are going to be young Magneto, young Professor Xavier. Let's just go with it. Don't love him or hate him. It's just, it is what it is. I don't know who I would pick if I had my chance to pick them anyway, so I guess it really doesn't matter. But as far as performances, nothing really blew me away. Michael Fassbender's young Magneto was... I thought he was convincing, but still not really good, if you understand that. I mean, the bar scene, I almost could have done without that, tracking down Nazis associated with the death of his mother. And again, that whole first scene was Kevin Bacon trying to be a unconscionable, no conscience Nazi killer, shooting his mother. But the kid could have just. I'm with the how it should have ended people. Why didn't you just kill Shaw all those years ago while you were still upset? Why did you end up dragging all of us into this thing and letting these people get the upper hand? It's like, it's crazy. That emotional trauma the kid was in, he could have killed the guy right then. He could have. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. How did he lose touch with him? How did they part ways and then he seeks revenge later? They don't really tell you. It's just... It seems like somebody who could just think a movie up as they went along to explain things. That's the closest thing as I can think to describe how that movie's put together. James McAvoy, I didn't dislike his performance, but it seemed like there was nothing really powerful from him until the end. And I really felt something then from him. But up to that point, all you really get is where he stands personally. He's not for violence. He sounds like Professor Xavier, and so they're building up like, okay, the character, they're getting the character right for the most part, I guess. What can I say about that film? It seems silly to me. I don't recall the actor's name who played Beast, who plays Hank McCoy. Same guy who was in another Bryan Singer film, Jack the Giant Slayer, which for some reason, because I'm an idiot, I ended up being half an hour late to that movie when I saw it at the theater, but oh well. I liked him in that. Liked him as Beast. I did not like the part in the movie, though, the way it was scripted, that he's obsessed with the way his feet look. That was just silly. Who in the you got shoes on that fit? I mean, it's not as though you're. It's really kind of his fault. He wants to fix his feet so he doesn't have hairy hobbit feet, and so he ends up turning himself into Beast, which I guess from the trailer and from the little promotional spot I saw yesterday of. And again, this tells you more about a lack of consistency in storytelling, at least as far as the movies are concerned. Wolverine, he's trying to find the people. And again, this is promo for Days of Future Past, a movie that hasn't even come out yet, and yet you already know what this part of the movie is going to be about. He's having to gather up all these mutants to get ready to fight the guys who are going to bring about the event that's going to usher in the Sentinel takeover. He's trying to find all these mutants. He goes to the mansion, the school. Is like, what happened to the school? Hank's there. Look, the school's closed. Where's the professor? He ends up saying, "You're Hank? You must be a late bloomer." The dialogue that he says as he's trying to shut the door in Logan's face, saying, "Look, you need to leave." It's like, man, you're kind of strong for a scrawny kid, or however he says it. You sure there's not a little beast in there? Come on, beastie. It's like, he's talking to him like he knows him. You never see them get to know each other. You never get to see them anything in X-Men The Last Stand, the first time they're seen together in the film universe. So that's another thing. It's like, why do you gotta do us like that? What? Just show us what we want to see. Everybody knows the story. It's not as though this is some original thing. That's why I think the Avengers is so successful, those movies, those Marvel movies, because they're basically just trying to stick to the story as much as they possibly can, and they're giving the people what they want. That's why I think those films have been doing so well, one after the other. But in that little TV spot, Hank is his normal self. He's not big and blue and hairy. And so even somebody in the comments said, "Oh, so Hank's like, basically like the Hulk, don't make him mad or he turns into Beast." So I guess it is like some emotional triggered thing with him. And I guess that's neat. That's some relief for his character and the actual actor. His face will be able to be seen in the movie. Okay, that's neat. But I mean, the whole thing in First Class, of the way he doesn't seem very smart. He comes off as kind of the mad scientist thing, willing to inject himself with something he's not entirely sure he knows what it's going to do. It's not to say he's dumb. His character is brilliant. He's a genius. Which doesn't make sense that he would do that to himself. When I don't think, again, this is something you can correct me wrong. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But in the comic books, is that the way it happened? Because I know in the animated series, Beast was always portrayed as the big blue beastie, but I know in some of the earlier comics he was this like really agile, like almost like he gradually became like a gorilla built guy with big thick muscles. He lost his hair and he did have his feet that way, so he was for lack of better words, he was kind of freakish, but he wasn't big and blue and hairy. Did it happen naturally, or did something happen to him that triggered the rest of his transformation? Somebody please tell me. So yeah, and oh yeah, I'm sorry. Please, you can jump on me on the comments if you want to. This is just my opinion. It doesn't really matter. It's about things that ultimately it's fictional, whatnot. So I mean, what's the deal? The young Raven, Mystique. What is up with? I don't dislike this actress. I wish her the best in the world, but I mean, and I haven't seen Hunger Games. Her name is escaping me right now for some reason, but I'm like, what is this? I mean, Mystique in the former, as bad as the third movie was, with her being, and I forgot to rant about that, the way she's healed and the way Magneto just abandoned her. It's like, again, out of character, nonsensical. What a dumb movie. It's not just Magneto and Mystique. It's Eric and Raven. There's another relationship, interpersonal relationship than just the mutant part, and it's like that was nuts. The way she just, she's not on board with everything Charles Xavier does. They're not two peas in a pod and all this stuff, but it's like the way she leaves him, really abandons him, shot in the back, in the dirt, crippled, doesn't know it fully yet, but he's down for the count, not walking anytime soon. I don't know how he's up and walking about in this new film. Are they just going to he was able to have surgery, he overcame that, he's not really crippled yet? Are they really going to do that? There better be some good explanations for some stuff, because other people have jacked with these movies so much that it's like, you have to explain this chunk, otherwise it's insulting to the movie viewer, because the movie viewer's not dumb. We're not stupid. Again, I'm talking about the trailer. James McAvoy, hippie hair, facial hair, walking around in his weird-looking shirt, collecting mutants with Logan, the guy who told him to get lost once upon a time in X-Men First Class. Him and Magneto, or Eric Lenscher. Up and walking around, not crippled, and yet he's shot in the back at the end of First Class. And Mystique, with her high horse self, who can look like anything she wants to, up to and including royalty, famous actors, actresses, presidents, homeless, she could do anything she wanted. And yet for her, of all people, to have this, I mean, I understand that the storyline, all of a sudden she was mimicking people in her, but after she learns how to control her powers, after the horrors of childhood and traumatic whatnot that are supposed to teach people how to adapt to this life, for her to still be this person who's like mutant power, mutant pride, when really with her particular power it's like she's anything but some cursed thing that, like, I'm thinking of the Morlocks, those whose appearance was so unseemly because of their mutations that they couldn't survive without daily persecution of one time or another on the surface world. She just seems full of herself, and the particular actress who's portraying her, it didn't work for me. I didn't like it. Sue me. Sue me. Sue me. I'm not going to call her wooden. I'm not going to call her no emotion. I'm just going to say I didn't care for this part of the movie, especially the stinking ending. Take care, bees. Remember, mutant pride. And she goes away with the villain, Magneto, who kills people. It's nuts to me. It's absolutely nuts. Anyway, those are the main issues. I liked Kevin Bacon as Shaw. I don't think it was like, I don't want to overrate it the way a lot of people do, but I did like him. Correct me if I'm wrong. Again, somebody else can mention this in the comments. Are his powers supposed to be identical to Bishop's, to be able to absorb any, whatchamacallit, I forget the word, energy, what kind it is, that he can absorb it, whatever can be absorbed, whatever that word is, rechannel it, because I know I just saw in the trailer, Bishop in X-Men Days of Future Past, absorbing from Sunspot, and I guess that futuristic gun of his, like, hooked up to his body. That's neat. I guess that's a neat idea. And then he goes out and he's able to blast some robots and some Sentinels with it. Are his powers and Shaw's supposed to be exactly the same, or is there a difference? Maybe I can talk about the ending. The the Nazi coin through the brain thing. I was like, I don't even know what to think about that, because he's getting his revenge. It is kind of gruesome. It's definitely a kind of a thing that I don't believe had been done in previous X-Men films. I mean, well, I take that back. In X-Men 2, I know he sucks all of the Magneto sucks all the iron out of that guard's bloodstream. He had so much iron, he was able to make 2 or 3 little lead balls like musket rounds or something, uh, and escape from his plastic prison. But so I guess, yeah, that kind of a thing. But again, it's Magneto again. But as far as the gruesomeness of it, I mean, it had to be with the coin, because the coin was the one that he had given him earlier in the film. Move this coin. He says, I'm going to move this coin now. He moves it through his brain, and then he floats Kevin Bacon's body out there before Azazel, the only kind of a cool character in the movie. And even though he's supposed to be this devil-looking dude, Nightcrawler's father. Riptide, I had never heard of him prior to this movie. Banshee, I don't think justice was done to him well. I don't like it that he's not in... well, to be honest, maybe I should be glad he's not in Days of Future Past, but I wish that if they were going to put him in a movie, more justice would have been done to him. But to put him in Days of Future Past, since his character was one who came along later, wasn't it? And didn't he have a romance with Maura McTaggart over in Scotland? Whereas this was just another American kid. Of course, everybody's got to jump on the racial slight. What is his name? Darwin? What a neat power. He can adapt to anything. That's... you would think this is, if there was ever a mutation ever, that it would be something like that. He gets killed. The only guy to die like that, it's got to be the black guy, of course. Kill him off. They kill the guy off. Then there's Raven again. No emotion. Darwin's dead and we can't even bury him. Yeah, because he was disintegrated by Havoc's hula hoop of death power. I so want him to bring Cyclops back and dump that brother of his. Anyway, but that'll probably never happen because nobody cares about Cyclops. Except me and 7 other people. Who else? What other mutants were there? Feels like I'm missing somebody. Beast? No, I think I covered everybody now, haven't I? Hope I haven't missed anybody. Anyway, the ending fight scene's pretty cool, but most of it I'm thinking of now has to do again with Azazel teleporting and Beast actually finally getting some decent fighting time in one of these movies. Yeah. Yeah, right. I'll just say that. I gotta say something. I hate these awkward pauses. I'm trying to remember my place. I know I'm just skipping around this film. I mean, the boat scene was neat earlier on with Magneto controlling... I've only seen the movie once full, all the way through at the theater, and it was like the way he controlled those, what were that, the anchors? All the boats in this movie. Somebody really likes boats, and I was thinking, if it's the same guy, Matt Vaughn, who did League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, he had to have Captain Nemo's submarine. I guess he just likes stuff out on the water. Hey, maybe that's a calling card type thing. It's neat. But the way Emma Frost just armored up with the diamonds and pow! It seemed like one shot at him and knocked him off the boat. And later on, he's able to actually just almost torture scene her with the thing around her neck. It's like, what is this? And I guess she's not going to be in the new movie because they rescue her at the end of First Class, but she's not going to be in this new one. Rescue her from her detained thing. And again, kind of a nightmare scene when they try and get to the kids. Oh yeah, Butterfly Wings. I forgot about her. I forget the actress' name, but you know who I'm talking about. Dragonfly Wings. Able to fly around. I mean, I didn't dislike her, but it just seemed like one of more of those characters that's just, she was a real character, I know, but it's like, given no time to really talk about her. Kind of like Banshee, kind of like Havoc for the most part, even though they get to be in these next movies. Darwin, didn't know anything about him except he was a cab driver. And I'm pretty sure Darwin didn't just up and die easy like that in the comics. I'm pretty sure. Nazis, Nazis, Nazis. Always got to have Nazis in these movies for some reason. We've already seen the Nazis. We don't need to see any more Nazis. Watch Captain America 2. I thought we were past Hydra. Is Hydra always with us? Always got to have the evil dudes with the German accents. Anyways, the ending of the film. Magneto has him in his clutches. They shoot all the rockets toward him. He can stop them. Professor Xavier is trying to do the moral high ground thing. If there's one chance where you can do the right thing, where you can make a difference, it's right now. No, he wants to kill them. He wants mutants to live, and not just live, but dominate these humans. Look at the way they kill each other, and they would kill us. I feel their guns moving on the water, targeting us. A neat line, because he can feel metal and what it's doing. The fight scene, he's got to beat down Xavier, hit him in the face. Moira McTaggart starts shooting. He deflects the bullets. You did this. Then he tries to choke her to death. There's Charles on the ground. Who knows if it's even bleeding out. Can't move. He's crippled. Man. Why did I mention nightmare scene? Oh, yeah. The way Azazel is basically the enforcer, kind of like the way Stryker used his son Nightcrawler to take out the whole White House, the way he's zapping people. And there's the one scene in a movie, I guess, an X-Men movie, where you're thinking, well, you know, if so-and-so has such and such a power, and it could literally be anything, well, they could just do this and just take everybody out. Iceman, he could just freeze his entire environment, which I'm glad in that new trailer for X-Men Days of Future Past, like, Bobby looks like he's really in top form at last, with he's flying around with the ice under him and stuff, and freezing things. Like, oh, that looked good. That's Iceman right there. Finally, we're getting to it. Toad, think about Toad. He could just jump on everybody's heads and kill them. But really, the one thing that you would think of for the teleporters to be able to do, just teleport into the sky a few miles, drop the guys, and they'll be dead. And they actually do it in this film. Kind of neat. And of course, they would only do that with the evil villain dude, Azazel, murdering people. Bodies, guys still alive, falling from. What a nightmare. That scene was crazy. Riptide with his tornado self, slinging a few around. But then there's Azazel, just like Nightcrawler was, only with swords and just killing people. One of the few things from the movie that you really remember while people are trying to find themselves and Magneto's trying to learn how to control things and control larger pieces of metal, and I want you to shoot me in the head, I'll stop the bullet. Kind of crazy. He's kind of crazy. And that's all you can really say about it. But the ending, it's like Raven, Mystique up and leaves him. I love the how it should have ended spoof of that. Like, well, sure, I'll go with you. I mean, granted, I've known Charles all my life, and he's pretty much the only family that I have. But yeah, I'll abandon him right now while he's shot in the dirt, maybe dying. Oh yeah, I'll go with you. What did they have Moira McTaggart saying? Magneto, you are wearing the helmet of the man who killed your mother. This helmet is fabulous. Don't make fun of it. Who will join me? No, not you. I'm talking about the good mutants. He didn't want Azazel and Riptide. He wanted to have Charles's gang to go with him. Lifting the submarine out of the water, I guess they had to have a moment kind of like that. But I mean, I remember watching the film and thinking, it's kind of lost on me because I mean I've seen him move the Golden Gate Bridge already. This is it's not as big. I mean, that's what your mind is thinking. Well, it's not as momentous as the 8 minutes in that other stinky movie where he moved this whole bridge and gave the evil eyes to the woman in the car with the kids, so they locked it and he walked on. But yeah, I guess that's enough of First Class. I mean, all the stuff with the government. Oh, so you're telling me that General What's-His-Name just traveled 3,000 miles? And the sexism remarks, and Charles in his wheelchair at the end, neat-looking wheelchair, for the older model, whatever. Who knows? I guess I'll just turn it into a school now, and I guess I better start doing this before I lose my hair, and all these little jabs at his future self, and it's like, ha ha ha, not laughing much. And then the movie just kind of ends. Maybe if I watched it again, I would see some new things in it, but I'm just going off of things that I remember in the film that just really annoyed me. I mean, only somebody who's uncaring and unfeeling toward the people that have actually been in her life and have helped her would just up and leave somebody like that. So yeah, I'm with Logan in the trailer when he says you're a cold-hearted, well, I won't call her a bad name, but yeah, it's cold-hearted. Mystique is cold-hearted, pure and simple. Hank wasn't acting like the brightest bulb when he injected himself, and he's this brilliant person causing his own transformational horror to come upon him and make things even worse than they were before, because the whole point was he was trying to escape his physical defects, and now he's Beast of Beauty and the Beast, only blue. But I guess they're going to make it like it's the Hulk effect, like he can look like his normal self and then just transform when he gets ticked and has to take out the trash, beat down on some baddies. Anyways, just different things like that. The whole thing with the Nazis and Eric chasing down people for revenge, the way it was so sudden, all of a sudden it's present day. Okay, we just saw you as a little traumatized kid watching your mother be murdered by Kevin Bacon. Okay, now all of a sudden in the next scene you're an adult. What happened in the interim besides you trying to locate certain people? When did you get away? Did you escape? Were you released at some point? What experiments were done on you? Because he refers back to the thing, I know what it's like to be a lab rat, or whatever he was talking about. In the first movie, they already said, because he helped me build it, talking about Cerebro, and yet, actually, Hank is largely responsible, and the government experiments for building what would become Cerebro. It's like, no continuity, and it makes me nuts. Maybe I'll think of something else as I keep talking, but let me try and end this recording by getting through the last movie. Not much to be said. Wolverine, the Wolverine. It's Spaceballs 2, The Search for More Money, as far as I'm concerned, because they got all these stupid promos, all these little images of Hugh Jackman, new haircut, shirtless, of course. We got to see how buff he is, immodest, holding a Japanese ninja sword. When did he ever use the sword in a menacing, defensive stance in the movie? Never. He saves what's-his-name's life when he's down in the hole in Hiroshima, Nagasaki, whichever one it was happened. And the guy says, here, I give you my sword and all this, and I was like, I don't want to take your sword. That's the only time he ever holds the sword. For him to look like a... You could easily look at that balcony scene, that little balcony poster, or either one, and get of those images you can find online, and easily get the impression that, okay, well, he goes to Japan, so especially to people who know something about that story and how powerful it is, and potentially could be on the film, up on the big screen, it's like you get the idea that, okay, he's going to do some training, some martial arts training, and some swordsman training. He's gonna be wielding a sword a little bit in this movie. Even though he's got claws, he's going to be getting into the ninja aspect of it. And I know I've heard so many people rant about how the ninja battle was so disappointing, how he technically does fight ninjas, plural, two. He does fight two ninjas at the end before he's taken down by all the harpoon arrow things. I think the people who made that movie were just so off base in what they were hoping to achieve with that. What did that guy say? 17 arrows was more powerful than 17,000 something or other. It's like, nah, it wasn't. Not to me, anyway. And I'm usually someone who, when there's an emotional scene, I do actually get emotional. He had regained his healing, regenerative powers, and yes, I'm going to be jumping on the bandwagon here with a few things I've already heard, that it is Superman 2 all over again to do the one thing that you could do with a guy with regenerative healing capabilities: take away his mutant powers. Take away his powers. Well, that is his power, so obviously he, by default, he would become much weaker as a warrior, as any kind of usual fighter or combatant, and so it's stupid. Why did they do that? I don't know. But that's what Hollywood likes to do now. I want to say that I have watched Michael King, his take on this film, and I'm going to say that I think he's right when power should be left intact and just give Wolverine some more mutants to fight, up the ante, give him a challenge. Wouldn't it have been nice if, who knows, Sabretooth could have shown up, or maybe Cyber, maybe somebody who could really give Wolverine a run for his money, or a small gang of mutants. But no. And again, I want to also agree with Michael King when he says this film really isn't so much a character piece the way people describe it, but that it is personal. And I agree, it's personal like all get out. You get into Wolverine's or Logan's mind. Unfortunately, you've got Jean Grey, who we killed at the end of the X-Men Last Stand junk, constantly coming to him in dreams, either saying, I can't go on without you, you need to be here with me, you need to die, you have to die, or you killed me. You don't know what to make of what she's saying, and it isn't really explained well in the movie either. I thought Yukio was an interesting character, as was the girl that Logan has a little bit of romance with. Even though the whole plot, the whole story, it really was messed up in my view. I mean, Logan's got to be her hero. Her dad and her grandfather are evil and willing to get her killed and do horrible things. It was a messed up story. And I was hoping against hope that they had combined what they did with the animated series with one of the descriptions that because I don't know much about the Silver Samurai as the villain. I was hoping that they would do this. One description of the Silver Samurai that I had heard, maybe it was Captain America or something like that, it's like he was kind of like Gambit. Like whatever he touched, he could charge with whatever energy would explode or whatever. But that what he would do is he had these samurai swords, and that when he touched them with the handles with his bare skin, he would be able to cut through any substance in the world because it would be charged up. That was like his mutant power. It would be basically like a lightsaber, I guess. That with that weapon, he could then cut through anything except adamantium. Enter Wolverine and his character. I was hoping they would do something like that, or maybe a combination of that and what they did with the animated series when Silver Samurai was a teleporter. But I was thinking about it the other day, and I realized to my horror, well, they already did that in a really garbage way in the form of Baraka Pool in the first X-Men movie. 2 swords, maybe they couldn't cut through anything, but even Wolverine still had his adamantium claws, but he was also a teleporter. So they already did that junk, and he had to have help fighting him from Victor Creed. So the story was all messed up, and you can see from the trailer that it ended up being a big power suit, like Iron Man or something, only as a gigantic samurai transformer looking thing. Looked neat for sure, but I don't know that that particular Silver Samurai was the one depicted in any of the comics, and I understand there's more than one version of it. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that big power suit Joker was anywhere in the comics, and I did not like that. And him losing his adamantium claws, bogus junk, completely off the mark. What did Rambo Rat for Life refer to the, what do you call him, Asian Hawkeye? That one character in The Wolverine, who's an archer. He's got this bow, and he's basically a gymnast or something. He's jumping over buildings like a ninja and stuff. The only ninja-like person you see in this thing, because there's not a lot of ninja action in it. You see Viper, a character who, if I understand the comics at all, and I do have her in a few comics, another character who was just given no genuine introduction, no good screen time, no good build-up, nothing. Wasn't done justice to. If her character has anything in the comic books, and I know she does, it wasn't in the film, and you know it. And the whole thing by the end of it, when she just goes bald and sheds her skin, that was just weird and confusing and disturbing at that point. It was like, what's the point? What's the point? One thing I was thinking of that could have made her out to be this really menacing villain, when that guy propositions her like a prostitute earlier on in the film, I was thinking, you know what? One thing they could have done, and don't get the wrong idea about me, but I'm just saying, if they wanted to make her out to be anything really bad, she could have like led him on, took him into like the back way where nobody really was, and then instead of spitting in his face and blinding him, like do something like in the comics or something, like spit something that like melt his face or something, and just leave him there. That would have been, you would have seen her as a real baddie at that point, you know. But no, she's like, oh, and just spits in his face, and then the other guy comes, and then she spits in his face, and then she gives him the antidote, curing him of it, like, I'm in control, he's weak now, we've taken away, his flesh is weak, he can be dealt with now, he can be controlled, and it's like, it all is about what happened in the very beginning of the film, and this is the personal story. And again, I give the movie this, it is this personal story. It's just, it makes no sense at all. You just have to go with it. A personal story because he's going through personal problems as he's thinking about all that he's been through and what parts of his life he can remember, which, if all of his memories were erased by that adamantium bullet in X-Men Origins, which supposedly took place before the first Wolverine movie, but after World War II, how does he remember these things from World War II, of him being put down in a cage? And I got to repeat the same thing Michael Keane said. How do you catch Wolverine? Adamantium or no? He's got claws in him, and he's a regenerator. How do you catch this thing? He would ultimately have to give himself up at some point, or be overpowered in some way. But I would rather think, and again, I'm trying to think of really powerful things they could have done. I had this idea that, you know what, maybe, and again, this is when I was wishing they would have taken the Japan story more in the line of the way the animated series did, when the Silver Samurai was extorting all these people in this small village, these humble, poor people, and there was the monk trying to give Logan some good spiritual advice, trying to help him control his anger and find purpose, things like that, that maybe if they could combine that and also have some World War II thing, if they wanted to go back in time like that, that maybe he could have already been dealing with his usual struggles, maybe his whole platoon or whatever, if he was with Canadian forces or American forces or whatever, maybe American at that point, maybe his whole platoon's killed or something, and all he really had been living for was the man next to him, like a soldier. And then he's overtaken by the Japanese. Like, maybe you see his claws starting to come out because he's so enraged because all his buddies are dead. But then maybe you see what's going on in his head and his thoughts, and he has a what's the point moment. What's it all mean? What's the point? And he just kind of gives himself up to the Japanese forces. Something like that. But he's in a hole, a deep hole, I guess, so he can't climb out. Anyway, no explanation, just it is a personal story, I know, because he's dealing with all these things and the memories of Jean, someone he cared about, but he had to kill her because she was berserker, killing everybody, literally everybody. Again, a huge underdeveloped, underachieved misfire in cinematic history, since the Shi'ar Empire was a threat to the whole galaxy and the whole universe. Phoenix wasn't really a threat to the whole world. Maybe as an out-of-control, maybe to the extent that an out-of-control tornado or hurricane or something, but not to all life in the known universe like the Shi'ar. But again, nobody cared about actually doing the story the way the story itself is. Anyways, and it is a personal story because he has this personal memory of this young Japanese officer who, while everybody else was killing themselves rather than be killed by the bomb, he was actually letting the American POWs out. Kind of a neat scene. Somebody who's actually something of a conscience. They were trying to shoot him as they were getting out. He waved to the guy in the tower, "Stop it, stop it, it's over." So they get out, got the samurai swords or whatever ninja sword, literally committing hara-kiri through their guts, just killing themselves. Logan actually got out of the hole. I guess he threw him some keys, I couldn't remember, and said, "Get in there, now!" You saw that in the trailer. See the whole thing in the trailer. What a huge giveaway. They give way too much away in the trailers sometimes. Good stuff, because that was one of the neatest things in the movie. Wolverine surviving an atomic blast. You see him kind of burn up. He put a big metal shield over him. I guess he pulled Captain America's shield out from somewhere. Protected him, and of course he heals immediately. And this guy who he owes his life to wants to thank him. And that's what the whole thing is about. Yukio going, finding him. Illegal Canadian hunters killed his bear friend. And so he finally agrees to go. The man is dying. Who knows what he's dying from? Maybe just severe old age, but maybe I don't know if he had leukemia or something. So maybe some condition, or was he just really old? I can't recall. But he knows death is coming on very soon. He's very in a weakened state and everything. He wants to exchange Wolverine's gift and make him mortal. You've suffered long enough. You can have a normal life. You can grow old and die. You can love once and die and all this stuff, and I will be able to live. And the whole thing, I remember being poorly done as I was watching it. You don't say things like that to somebody. It's like, "I was not ready to die then. I am not ready to die now." It sounded very... Again, I don't want to knock Japanese culture or anything, but surely people don't talk that way. He hadn't seen him in years. No one would... that they're trying to politely ask for assistance, even a good friend who they think would help them. "I need you to do this. You need to do this." It's like, and Logan is like, "Let me get this straight. You want to kill me?" The whole thing, it's like, it's like you're having a weird dream watching some of this stuff. It's like, this is bizarre. He refuses, and the guy dies that very night. And again, they're trying to apprehend Logan, you find out, trying to get the secret of his uh, whatever it is in his DNA, his blood, however they acquire what it is in him that helps him to rejuvenate. Is it just some of his cells? Or what is it? That's not really explained, but at the end you just have to assume it's his bone marrow, because when the huge transformer looking samurai zaps his claws off, he sticks these prepared, pre-installed little suckers into the holes in the claws where the bones would have formed his actual bone claws, and starts sucking his juices out. It seems like something out of a totally different kind of science fiction movie. Nothing that you've really seen in any any X-Men movie. And again, I'm looking forward to Days of Future Past, and even more than that, I'm looking forward to, once this is over, X-Men Apocalypse in 2016. Big time looking forward to that one, because they're finally doing the stuff, hopefully, that I always wanted him to do, and I hope to see Mr. Sinister at some point. Anyways, the big X-Men universe, not just Magneto and Professor Xavier barking at each other, and Wolverine trying to find himself, and them killing off X-Men. I mean, Cyclops, like they have good sense. But yeah, I didn't really care for the movie overall. The Wolverine, I hope that's not the Wolverine, because that if that is the definitive the Wolverine, then wish him luck. You can't really help him. He'll be trying to find himself again next episode, which again, that's the way that movie kind of felt. I know there's supposed to be some deleted scene of Yukio having in her little private case, because she goes off with him, going to be his bodyguard with him, hang out with him for a little while, I guess, I don't know. The actual Wolverine mask, like maybe alluding to the suit, but he's never going to wear that suit. They've never worn any of their actual colors. And even more than the blue and the yellow, the black suit, I like the one before that, the kind of burgundy and black, the red and black. I like that Wolverine colors better, that costume. But yeah, it causes you to lose interest at some point, at least me, just my opinion, because I didn't see that he was really changed by the end of it. He got to see what it was like to be weakened and not heal rapidly. But it seemed like it was the same kind of a thing as with Rogue at the end of the first X-Men movie, because there he touched her, and one of the powerful things that it makes me really like the first film the best of the X-Men films, let her have his healing capability to get over whatever it was about Magneto's contraption that has knocked her out and maybe has killed her. He's going to try and save her, and the way all of his wounds open up from the fight with Sabretooth, right across his face, bleeding out all over, just bleeding like crazy after just a couple seconds, that it was the same kind of thing here. He was weak, but really that was actually more powerful, because in the Wolverine, he's just gotten his healing capability back, and now he's just trying to rescue the damsel in distress, his love interest in the film, since they kind of got together during the course of whatever. And it's like, some of it it's in Japanese, but there's subtitles, and it's kind of a slow film. It has those flashbacks to where the bomb landed and all this stuff, and it's like, again, very personal, but as far as the character arc, I don't see it. He seems to be like the same old Logan. Hugh Jackman didn't change his disposition a whole lot, the way he was carrying himself, that I could see at the end of the film when it was all over and the guy revealed himself as it was the grandfather still alive in the suit. That whole mess, it's like, ugh. And again, I realize I'm talking about these films in terms of as though I would talk to somebody who has already seen the film, because I know I'm not connecting my thoughts. This is just me rambling and for the sake of talking about something at this point, because I wanted to get my thoughts on this on the record, especially before I see X-Men Days of Future Past, because I am looking forward to the film. I'm sure I'll enjoy it. I just hope it's good. I hope it's a good X-Men film. I hope that in spite of what they're doing to change how they're warned in the past from the future, because I think it was Kitty Pryde who had a vision in the actual comics. It looks like it's Wolverine who's going back to his younger self or some junk, and it looks like Quicksilver from the trailer is not going to be Magneto's son. Things like that. I still hope that I'm not just entertained. You understand what I mean when I say I hope this is a good film. And if it alludes to things and leads into the next movie and they give you a sequel bait ending, so be it. I just want to see a good X-Men film. I really do. I want it to be good. Because X-Men 2 and X-Men The Last Stand, X-Men 3, First Class, and these Wolverine episodes, Adventures of Wolverine, just it's not that good to me. Just my opinion. But yeah, I guess I'll cut out for now. Try and end this recording. So yeah, favorite X-Men stuff got to be the animated series. I have some of the comics from when I was a kid, but as far as the films go, the first one is definitely number one in my mind because of kind of the way it's just kind of an in-your-face simplicity, as just as surely as if these things are real, these mutants are real, this actually happened, and we just put a camera in and covered this adventure like a news report or something, and then we're out. It wasn't that long of a movie, and things like that. Yeah, I think that's maybe not quite right, but I'm definitely going in the right direction as far as why I like the first film the best. The Wolverine, just X-Men. Viper is the only other mutant that I can recall, unless Yukio is a mutant, because she can technically see into the future, has one of those powers where she can at least see people's deaths or something, or if that's just something else altogether, because I know in the comics and in the animated series, Juggernaut's powers, he wasn't a mutant, they were magical, even though in the third film he's just this guy with momentum and a funny looking helmet. But yeah, the Wolverine, kind of a letdown. I'm glad I didn't see it in the theater. I heard so many people rant about it that I was like, I'm afraid I'll be disappointed. And really, I can honestly say that I was kind of saved from that, because I finally watched it on a Redbox DVD. And yeah, it was like kind of a slow, boring, slow thing with an ending that just was messed up every which way. Yeah, so that's my thoughts on Wolverine. I like the Wolverine character in the comic books. Interesting for sure. But the world isn't all about him. In the comics it's not, but in the movies, unfortunately, yeah. Looking forward to X-Men. I liked one of my favorite. Let me finish that thought. I'm looking forward to X-Men Days of Future Past. Let me briefly say something about what I knew about X-Men from when I was a kid. I liked so many of these mutants. You might remember, if you're around the same age as me, all the little action figures. They probably would cost a pretty penny now to try and go back and collect them all, especially if they're just left in their original packaging. You remember maybe going to Toys R Us and there would be a whole end of an aisle with nothing but X-Men figures. Archangel. They had Strong Guy, even though he wasn't big in the animated series, but an episode or two. 2 or 3 versions of Wolverine and Cyclops, Storm, Archangel, Beast. Just all these. How great that was. I mean, that's what I remember. That's what takes me back. And the animated series. Although I do have collected quite a few and read quite a few of the comics. I think the animated series, as far as what anybody could go and look at and get the essence of what some of the characters are about and what X-Men itself is about in the way of what it has to offer as far as lessons, life lessons, mythology, the mythology of it, thinking about if there were people with such differences, would it not be kind of like some of those barriers, ethnic, racial, whatnot, that people have had to overcome in the past and in this country and elsewhere? How people are is what I'm getting to. How people really are. And so that's something you can definitely take away from X-Men, and I would definitely direct everybody to go and get the animated series, because it's some good junk. I don't know why my sister says he looks like the devil. I like Mr. Sinister. I don't know why. I guess I'm kind of crazy like that. Every time you see him, that music, that great background music comes on. Dun, 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 dun. That kind of like a bell sound, like the way in Terminator 2 they did such a good job of having like a judgment bell and so much of the sound effects, different kinds throughout the movie, that kind of a thing. But I can't describe it because I don't know the terminology for it, but you get what I'm saying. Yeah, I'm sure there's all kind of stuff I forgot to mention, but this will have to do for now. Looking forward to the movie, and maybe I'll talk more about X-Men for sure when I do a review. That's what I'll do. I'll just collect my thoughts, and when I give my little review from seeing X-Men Days of Future Past, I'll just talk more about the stuff then. But until then, thank you for listening to me, and take care.